this is really like this tool. That's just basically knocking down or holding down the dirt, because this otherwise can make a lot of dust and dirt. It's a messy job. It's good to clean up before you try to disassemble. Clean out around the pins and the spring, and where the pins go in, and around the bleeder nipple, because you're going to have to get into all of that. And it's a lot easier if it's clean, a little bit clean, before you try to disassemble. Comes apart easier, and doesn't get dirt jammed into things. And it's also better, I think, for your health, not to have all the dust. Then let's see. Gotta have my pin. This is a 4mm cotter. Drive those out. And when you take out the upper, the spring is going to want to come out too. So catch it. And lots of dirt. Not too much brake cleaner on their rubber dust boot though, because I know that makes them swell up and get damaged. Let's see, you can try to take the pads out. They may come out. I may have to I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and loosen the bleeder nipple now with my 9mm. Just a little bit. You shouldn't find that super tight. If it is, take it all the way out and clean it, and don't put it in too tight. And with that bleeder open, when you pull on the pads, they'll come out a lot easier because the pistons can retract. Yeah, those brake pads are 1 to 2mm with a shim. Now I notice on this side, I got the arrow pointing up on the shim. I have no idea why I did that. These also seem to work just as well as they did on the other side, where they were pointing down. So, let's see what direction these shims are. I don't remember. This shim is pointing down. So, who knows? I'm going to put them in all with the arrow pointing down. The replacements. And the dust boot, it looks okay. Not great. It's a little bit swollen. Just getting some of the dirt off of that. and cleaning out a little bit at the top and bottom to get the dirt out of there. One thing to keep in mind too, doing this job, if you don't have a lot of brake fluid in the brake fluid reservoir, then you are going to want to make sure you keep an eye on it. I found if the reservoir is full when you start, you can let it drip like that, or maybe a little bit slower than that, for quite a while, at least 45 minutes before you will run out in the reservoir. So then, put my pliers in and squeeze this caliper back. Be careful not to cut or damage the dust boot, which can be tricky because it's flexible, and these calipers are probably the original calipers, 21 years old. I'm gonna have to replace them or get them rebuilt at some point, but the dust boots are really pretty swollen, so it's difficult to press the piston all the way back in without also pressing or tearing the dust boot, which you don't want to do. So that seems to be all the way back. This one is not yet all the way back. I've got a little tray to catch all the brake fluid and brake cleaner. So I'm just making double sure that all of the pistons fully retracted. Sometimes when you press on one piston, it makes the other piston come back out again. So you have to kind of go back and forth a little bit. Then, yeah, it's time to put the pads in. So, the pads and the shims. So, take a pad, take some brake fluid, some caliper grease, and you really only need it on the top metal plate and the bottom of the metal plate, and on the back where the piston is going to press on it. And this pad is going to be for the outboard side, so I'm going to put a shim in like that, so that it's pointing down when installed. And I can see the last time I did this job I got that in the reverse orientation. Put that in, and then should just slide right in. Oh yeah, that's good. Then you take the second pad, put some grease on the back and on the top and on the bottom, and take a new shim, and this is going to go in like that, so put the shim in like that, so that it is pointing down, and put a little bit of grease on the shim, and then that can go in. I'm putting it in at an angle to the outside, so that the shim clears over the dust boot on the way in without binding. And that is sticking on something, so it could be that the caliper isn't in all the way. It's stuck. Wonder why it's stuck. Could be hitting on the back side of the, I'm gonna close that bleeder. Could be hitting on the back side of the caliper. There it goes. It just needed to be lifted and twisted on the way in. Now it seems to be in there all the way. So that's good. So just clean that off if you got any grease where you shouldn't have, or any brake fluid where you shouldn't have. Let that dry a little bit. And then put a little bit of grease on the top and the bottom. I think you're supposed to put some grease here. Is that right? You're supposed to clean it. Yeah. It doesn't look like you're supposed to put grease. No, actually, you're not supposed to put grease there. So I'm not going to do that. Then you get your new pins and put the spring in the correct orientation. And I like to get it at least, it says install both pins first, but honestly I don't know. I think that would work fine. I just prefer to have the both pins more or less in before I drive either, because if you drive one of them and you then can't get the other one in, you're going to have to come back and remove it in order to get the first one in. So at this point, I gotta lie down a little bit here. Wrong place. Yeah, those are good. So you got your shims in correctly, got the pads in correctly, got the new spring in correctly, and the pins are all the way in. And let's see, the other job is to tighten up this bleeder, and don't tighten it up too much. I mean, once it's tight, really just a small additional turn, like, you know, 10 or 20 degrees. That's really all you need. You don't want to tighten that up too much. And I put grease around the threads on the nipple, and I also put it on the tip, and I put it in the cap, which may just be superstition, but I think it helps to keep the bleeder from rusting. And then at that point, I think I'm ready to I'm going to clean up the hub and the wheel and put the wheel back on. Should be good to go. So, not too bad. About 15 minutes to change the brake pads. Whew.